All right, strap in for today's deep dive. We're heading into the world of cybercrime, a world that's both, well, incredibly sophisticated and kind of ironic, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
Picture this, a heist targeting thousands of companies, involving terabytes of data and a twist you wouldn't believe.
it really does expose a critical issue in cybersecurity when we're talking about the cloud. It's all about this shared responsibility model,
Yeah.
and what happens when when it falls apart.
We're diving deep into an article from Dark Reading today. It's called Cybercrime Gangs Abscond with Thousands of AWS Credentials. It was published just a few days ago, actually, on December 10th, 2024.
Oh, I saw that one.
Yeah, and it breaks down this huge operation masterminded by two infamous cybercrime gangs, Nemesis and Shiny Hunters. Remember Shiny Hunter?
Oh, how could you forget? They were the ones behind that Ticketmaster breach earlier this year.
Exactly. They're not playing around.
What's crazy is they managed to steal not just access keys, but source code databases, even credentials for other services linked to those AWS accounts.
Wild.
Attackers, they always go for the most valuable data. Makes sense.
Right.
That's
Well, it's not just about getting into the cloud account itself. It's what they can do with the information once they're in.
right, right.
Before we get into the how, though, let's back up a bit.
Here,
What exactly is AWS? Some people might not be familiar.
AWS, that's Amazon Web Services. It's a massive platform offering cloud computing services, essentially. Think of things like data storage, virtual servers, software, all the digital tools businesses need, but instead of having physical servers in-house, they can access and manage everything online through AWS.
Ah, so it's like renting a superpowered computer system then, instead of building and maintaining your own.
Precisely.
Sounds convenient, but as this case shows, there are definitely some security challenges.
Yeah, big time. That's where the shared responsibility model comes in. Amazon, they secure the underlying infrastructure of AWS, right? But ultimately, it's the customer who's responsible for securing their own data and applications within that environment.
So it's kind of like renting an apartment. The building owner takes care of the building's overall security, but you're responsible for locking your own door, keeping your valuables safe.
Perfect analogy. And in this case, it seems a lot of organizations, well, they forgot to lock their doors.
Okay, so let's break down how these cybercriminals pulled this off. It was a pretty methodical two-step process, wasn't it?
Yeah, very methodical. The first step involves scanning millions of IP addresses, basically searching for any public websites with vulnerabilities. You could think of it like a digital burglar casing a neighborhood, looking for houses with unlocked doors or windows.
And they were specifically looking for websites hosted on AWS, right?
Exactly. They used a tool called Shodan, which is like a search engine for devices connected to the internet. It lets you find specific systems, including those with, let's say, weaknesses.
So with Shodan, you can see which houses are vulnerable without having to walk down the street and check each one.
That's it. They also used a technique called SSL certificate analysis. SSL certificates, those digital documents websites use to encrypt information.
Right, right.
Well, by analyzing them, they were able to expand their list of potential targets even further. They could glean info about the server, the software being used, all clues to potential vulnerabilities.
Sounds like they did their homework, gathering as much intel as possible before making a move.
Oh, for sure. Once they'd identified a potential target, they moved on to step two, exploiting those vulnerabilities. They had these custom-built scripts to scan for specific weaknesses. Think of it like specialized lockpicks, each designed to exploit a particular kind of lock.
Okay, so they found a vulnerable target. They have the right lockpick, so to speak. What's next?
That's when they gain access to the target systems. That's when they start extracting the valuable data, AWS credentials, source code, databases, anything they could get their hands on.
And this is where the scale of the operation becomes mind-boggling. Thousands of companies potentially affected.
Yeah, the impact is potentially huge, but there's a twist to this story. A bit of poetic justice, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It's almost too good to be true. Here we have these super skilled cyber criminals pulling off this incredibly complex heist, and they get caught because of their own careless mistake. The irony is thick.
Isn't it? Just imagine this. Researchers discovered the whole operation because the attackers made a basic security blunder. They left a massive AWS S3 bucket, basically cloud-based storage, wide open. Anyone could access it.
Wait, they left 2 terabytes of stolen data just sitting there. It's like a burglar stashing their loot in a see-through box on their front porch.
I know, right? It defies logic. Even the most sophisticated cybercriminals, they can make simple mistakes, and those mistakes, well, they have consequences. big ones.
This leads us right to the core issue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The shared responsibility model in cloud security.
Exactly. While AWS wasn't directly compromised, this incident is a wake-up call. Organizations using cloud services, they have a huge responsibility to secure their own data and applications. They can't just rely on the cloud provider to do it all for them.
It's like having a state-of-the-art security system in your home, but you leave the front door wide open.
Precisely. Best technology in the world won't help if you don't use it right and follow basic security practices.
And in the cloud, those vulnerabilities, well, they can be exploited on a huge scale.
Oh, yeah. Which is why it's crucial to understand not just the technical side of cloud security, but also what this shared responsibility model actually means for organizations and individuals using these services.
And that's something we'll definitely be exploring more in this deep dive. Before we get into practical steps you can take to protect yourself, though, there are a couple of other interesting details about this case.
Yeah.
Like there's this French connection that's particularly interesting.
Oh, right. The tools the attackers used were documented in French, and one of the aliases points to Sebastien Raoult. He's a known member of Shiny Hunters, already pleaded guilty to other cybercrimes.
It just shows that cybercrime, it crosses borders.
Absolutely. Another thing, there's a link to the Nemesis black market. That's a dark web marketplace. Stolen data, credentials, accounts, all of that, bought and sold there.
So even though they were sloppy and got caught, some of the data they stole is probably already in the wrong hands.
Yeah, very possible, which is why we have to move beyond reacting to these incidents. Focus on proactive security measures.
That's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive, actually. We'll explore practical steps you can take to protect yourself in the cloud, and we'll look at the bigger implications of this shared responsibility model for the future of cybersecurity.
So let's get practical. What can organizations and individuals actually do to better secure their cloud environments? Because knowing about these threats, that's one thing, but taking action, that's what really matters.
Absolutely. We need to move beyond the what and get into the how. What are some real practical steps people can take to boost their cloud security?
Okay, well, one of the most basic things, never hard code credentials directly into your code. Don't store them in files that are easy to access either. Think about it, that's like leaving a key under the mat.
Makes sense. Hackers will always go for the easiest route. What else? What else can we do?
Regularly scan your web applications, look for vulnerabilities. It's like a regular checkup for your website. There are some great open source tools out there. DirSearch and Nicto, for example. They can help you find common weaknesses before attackers do.
I'm curious about those tools, actually. How do they work?
Okay, so DirSearch, for instance, it helps you uncover hidden directories, files on a website, the kind that might contain sensitive info or vulnerabilities. It probes the website systematically, looking for clues that attackers could use. And Nicto, that one's designed to spot outdated software, misconfigurations, other potential risks on a web server.
Got it. So they're like automated security auditors,
Mm-mm.
constantly checking for red flags.
Exactly. And they're free. Anyone can use them, even if you don't have a dedicated security team.
What about something a bit more robust? Are there things organizations can put in place for an extra layer of protection?
Definitely. Implementing a web application firewall, a WAF, that's a great way to strengthen your defenses. It's like a shield. Sits between your web application and the outside world. It filters out malicious traffic before it can reach your servers.
So, like a security guard at the entrance, checking everyone's credentials.
Perfect analogy. A WAF analyzes incoming requests, looking for suspicious patterns. It blocks known attack signatures. Protects against a wide range of threats.
Sounds pretty powerful. Any other proactive steps we can take?
Absolutely. Change your passwords and access keys regularly. It's like changing the locks on your house every so often. Makes it harder for anyone with stolen keys to get in.
Good practice in general, really, not just for the cloud.
Definitely. And one more technique. I find this one fascinating. It's called canary tokens. Have you heard of them?
Canary tokens? That's a new one. What are they?
Okay, imagine setting up tripwires around your house. Someone steps on one, it triggers an alarm, lets you know someone's snooping where they shouldn't be. Canary tokens are kind of like that. They're digital tripwires. You place them strategically within your code or data. An attacker tries to access or steal that data, the canary token sends an alert. It's an early warning of a potential breach.
Wow. That's like an invisible security system alerting you the second someone tries to steal your data.
Exactly. Proactive. You can detect and respond to threats before any serious damage is done.
These tips are great. But it seems like the biggest takeaway here is that cloud security requires a real shift in mindset, doesn't it?
I agree completely. Like Jim Ruth said in that Dark Reading article, organizations have to adapt their cybersecurity practices for the cloud. It can't be business as usual.
So it's not just about new tools. It's about a new way of thinking about security in this new world.
Precisely. And one of the biggest challenges, it's understanding and actually implementing this shared responsibility model. Organizations need to take ownership of their security in the cloud. That takes a combination of technical solutions, clear policies, and training employees regularly.
It's about creating a culture of security awareness then,
Yeah.
where everyone understands their role in protecting sensitive data, whether they're a developer, a system administrator, or just a regular user.
Exactly. That's where the real work is. Technology can only do so much. It's the human element.
Hmm.
Our understanding of security, being vigilant, adapting, that's what will make us secure in this cloud-dependent world.
Yeah, it really makes you think. It's about being aware, being careful, and being ready to change how we do things.
Absolutely. Security, it's a journey, not a destination, right? There's no finish line when you're talking about protecting data and systems.
Mm.
We have to be constantly learning, evolving, adapting our strategies if we want to stay ahead of the game.
Especially with the cloud. Things change so fast, new threats popping up all the time.
That's it. That's where resources like dark reading come in and the work of security researchers. They're so important. They keep us informed about those new threats and give us practical guidance on how to deal with them.
I'm curious, actually, what are you doing to stay ahead in cloud security? Any particular resources you rely on?
Well, staying updated on industry news and research, that's crucial. I subscribe to a bunch of security blogs and newsletters, go to conferences, webinars, that kind of thing. I also try to be active in online forums and communities.
So being part of the conversation,
Yeah.
connecting with other experts, sharing knowledge.
Exactly. The cybersecurity community, it's very collaborative. There's a
Right.
real willingness to share information, to help each other out.
That's good to hear. It
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're not alone in this. Like there's a whole network of people trying to make the digital world a safer place.
Absolutely. And we need that collective effort because the attackers, they have a lot going for them. Often well-funded, highly organized, incredibly persistent.
And always innovating.
Yeah.
Finding new ways to exploit weaknesses, bypass security.
That's right. So we can't afford to be complacent. We need to be just as innovative, just as adaptable, just as determined to protect what's ours. Our data, our systems.
A constant arms race.
You could say that. But it's a race we can win if we work together, share knowledge, never stop learning.
Well, this has been a real eye-opener, I have to say. We explored the dark side of the cloud, saw how a massive cybercrime operation was brought down by its own carelessness. And importantly, we learned practical steps we can all take to protect ourselves in this increasingly digital world.
It's been a fascinating look at the world of cloud security and a reminder that while the threats are real, while they're always changing, the solutions are evolving too. If we understand the risks, embrace this shared responsibility, and take proactive steps, we can create a safer and more resilient digital future for all of us.
I like that. Couldn't have said it better myself. So to our listeners, remember, security is everyone's responsibility. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and never underestimate the power of working together to protect our digital lives.